Ciao raga, welcome back to the Sun Tzu Secrets. This is the second episode in English because we have a super duper guest today, my friend Ed from Close Order. So we are setting the bar higher and higher. So after interviewing the guys from LPO, the Las Vegas Open, we have Ed on, who's running, I would say, one of the most successful in the old world YouTube channels right now. Ed, welcome.
Oh, that's a very kind intro. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So the idea of doing this episode together came while we were actually playing, because Ed and I had the pleasure of sharing one match. And then I was like, you know what? It was such a fun game, such a complicated game for me. You gave me a lot of headaches. Turns out to be like quite a dramatic match. There were moments where we were all like, oh God, what's going on? And so we decided to do this and walk everybody through a little bit of the list, our thought process, what happened. But before we do that, just a brief introduction to this. Ed and I are part of two teams. I play for the US, even though everybody knows I'm Italian, but I live in New York. Italy doesn't really have a team for the WTC, and Ed plays for England. So there's this WTC online tournaments, which is about 100-man tournament, teams of 8. And it's kind of like, can we say, Ed, that it's a little bit of a warm-up in view of the WTC in Germany?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's obviously going to be another teams event coming up in Italy, actually, very soon. I would have to find the details on that one. I don't know that that's run by the same people or if it's just another teams event. And I think there might be another online event coming before the September event in Melle. But yeah, this is one of the warm-up events, and someone's team is doing very well so far.
Yes. We've been doing great. By the way, I think you're referring to the Alpine Cup, the one event in Italy in teams. So
that might be it.
Yeah, if you are a dear friend of mine runs the event, so Ed, if you're going there, just let me know, text me, and I'll make sure.
Oh, I would love to be. I do have to give this one a miss, unfortunately. But we do have a Team England representative team going. So
Gotcha. Okay. It will be for the next time. So,
sure.
England and US had a clash in round 3 of the WTC, because we all did pretty well in the first 2 rounds. We came pretty much very close with points and everything. So we were paired together in round 3. And we did the pairings, and it ended up being my Deamons of Chaos versus Ed's High Elves. So there was one of those matches where I looked at my captain and I was like, dude, what are you doing to me? Like, so that was my reaction, right? So when I, as we all know, right, we rate our matchups. So we put like green when we think we can do well. I'm talking for us, right? So we put yellow or red or black. Black is like, okay, he's gonna table me. And I rated this one kind of an orange, where I'm like, probably will not table me, but it's gonna be a tough match for me. But we needed other matches to be a little bit more favorable to us. So that's how we ended up doing this. But I was like very worried. So looking at my list, and then I have added communities. We have, I'm running a demons list with 3 units of 12 Furies, 5 Blade Drones, 2 Cannons, and then the Demon Prince, Mark of Nurgle with Demonology, level 4 Wizard, and a Lord of Change with Illusion. That is, has the -1 to be hit, Power Vortex, so -1 to cast, within 24, and then knows an extra spell. So basically, my whole army flies except for the cannons. And I was like, he's going to shoot me to death. So So
that was definitely the game plan. And just to mirror what you were saying on our side, I was expecting to get sort of a 14-6 or a 15-5. So a win, but not an absolute stop. That was the expectation coming in.
Great. Yeah. So do you want to walk us through a little bit of your list and how you ended up doing this, and how did you build it? What is your thought process? Because I think people would be super interested to learn what the people that are doing the WTC are thinking, right? So
absolutely, yeah. So this is a culmination of various different bits of testing. And now that I'm halfway through the event, I actually don't think it's a list that I'm in love with. And I don't think that it actually offers all that much in the pairings. So I'll probably be changing things up down the line. But the way that I was writing it was the list I was running previously, which is a dragon, a BSP on a griffin, a wizard, and then the same core, and then just a couple of unit sisters, a couple of unit of Loth and Skycutters. That's got more really bad pairings. There are difficult matchups. You cannot play into Bretonians at all. You really struggle into any of the poison shooting lists. And it's a fairly good singles list, although I actually might be moving away from that as well, because I think the meta's got pretty unfavourable for dragons, so I need to retool how I'm thinking about the game perhaps. But yeah, so the big unit of Sisters of Avalon, we've got a couple of members on the team who are big fans of the huge shooting brick that teleports forwards. So I thought, let's try and put my spell on it. Still take a dragon, but take the best of the rest, where we've got, the handmaiden to give it the +1 to hit and wound, the wizard to teleport the unit around the board, especially because WTC is using uncomped travel mystical pathways. You can just kind of teleport wherever you want to go, which is too strong. Part of the reason I wanted to play this was I want to get that nerf for September. So we're like, if we just take all the good TMP lists, maybe they'll just have to they'll have to come for it. Yeah. So a couple of other teams have done that as well. But yeah, and then the core is just 2 units of Silver Helms and a unit of Leadering Reavers, all with a hammer and the Ring of Fury, which I think is a fairly solid but not exciting core slot. It's flexible and it does enough to get on.
Yeah. That is actually what was scary, because at first sight I was like, okay, so how should I approach this game, right? So I was like, realistically, I have no ways of killing the dragon, so the dragon is untouchable. The sisters, well, either he makes a big mistake and I can charge him, which, as we're going to see, didn't happen, obviously. It's going to be pretty hard. So I was looking really into the Helms and the Reavers, and then when I saw the Ring of Fury, I was like, oh shoot, it's not going to be that easy, because true, I can dispel, but still, if I do miss, then 2d3 strength 4, for me, no armor and no saves, bye my unit, right? So that was where I got super kind of worried about it, and I was like, okay, I need to be cautious. And I think that there's another piece to this, and then I'm going to flip into deployment, that this online team tournament, the games are not happening all at the same time, like in real life, right? So you have the privilege to know a little bit, unless you're the first one to play, but like more or less, right? So what's going to happen on the other tables, or you already have results in, and you're like, okay, I'm going to push, I'm going to hold. So that is an interesting piece in online tournaments that I don't think is live.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up because I think it really changes how you play it. Because coming into this, we played on the last day that we could get our games in. Just scheduling conflicts before that point.
Yes.
And we knew at this point that some of the matches had gone in your favour. Some of the games that we thought were going to score quite well for us didn't, and we were coming into the last 2 games with a 20-point deficit. Obviously, Old World's teams were playing with the 0-20 system, so that means that theoretically we needed a draw and a 20-0. So I think we were actually 19 points behind. So if I got a draw and the next game was 20-0 victory for us, we win a round, or some combination. If we can both get a 15-5, for example.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I think that might have made you play a little even more cautiously than you might have done initially. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That was the and listen, I am a I like to define myself as a balanced player. So I'm not hyper aggressive as some of my folks in the team are, especially our Rex player and Phil that you may know. They go full in. That's where they really perform, and that's their nature as players. But for me, it's like I prefer to be like, okay, I'm flexible enough. I can avoid if I need to. I can push if I want. The other option for me was to like, okay, I'm relying on +5 to cast and the Column of Crystal, and I'm just gonna push, try to score points, use that Lord of Change, hope he's not gonna die, and then put some pressure on. And maybe keeping you at a distance with the sisters, maybe I can use the Miasmic Mirage, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to put the chicken there, put the Column Crystal, be within 15. So either you teleport them away, and then you shoot worse, or you can get charged. So, and I was debating, and at some point, I was like, listen, the match is kind of okay. We played before knowing what the last table would have done, because I think we had a Vampire versus Orcs and Goblin. The last was Nate against your man with
Dave Bruce, yeah.
So and I was like, okay, I think he just doesn't need to get tabled, right? So at some point I was like, if I can draw, it's gonna be good. And so I was and I knew that you would have come for me as you did. Like you given your list, you kind of put pressure. So without further ado, I would say with that said, I'll use my incredible technical skills that I was explaining to Ed. I'm completely impaired when it comes to tech. So this is our deployment, really. And here we go. So I think you got the side, you won the side, so you could choose.
I did, yeah.
And obviously, you took away the one that was a little bit more complicated for you. So and I was basically exposed everywhere. So I'm just gonna talk briefly what I did in the sense of this. I put both cannons on one side, on the extreme side, because I was like, he'll probably have to create a line with the sisters. So when he's going to teleport, he will have to take that into consideration, because at the end of the day, these ladies are like T3 and easy to wound and no ward save against the cannons. So I was like, okay, I can certainly do that. And I was imagining that you would have put the prince, around the blocking terrain, the rocks, because I was like, okay, he's not gonna take like 2 cannons turn T1, right? So, and then the Furies, I tried to kind of like cover the whole battlefield with the formation closed and like the zigzag, so that I could basically extend the front and hide the flies, which are a bajillion points, and again, no saves. True, T5, but no saves, so that you couldn't really see them with much. And then I was like, to what you just said, like taking a more cautious approach. Both characters behind the rock. The other option would have been I take the Demon Prince within 3 from at least 2 units of Furies, and then I push forward to get some points. So that was my thinking behind the deployment.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. As for me, I knew that you were likely going to be playing more cagey, so what I did was worked out your threat range of the Furies, which I think was, is it 32, something like that? Basically, I'm just slightly back from where you could turn one charge if you full center forwards, because I think that's how I very easily lose the game. If you get to the Silver Helms, kill them, overrun into the Sisters of Avalon, I lose half the units to coherency. I go head in hand back to my team captain and go, I got a 2. That would have been terrible. But I knew that I couldn't be too far backwards, so I had to basically be as far forwards as possible without risk. So set up Silver Helms 5 or 6 inches back from the line, whatever the measurement was. Prince a little bit further forwards. I wasn't worried about you charging my dragon. You're not going to kill that and overrun into something meaningful, so that was okay. And then the Sisters of Avalon were fairly central, with the view to be able to TMP basically where they needed to go. And because it's within and not wholly within, you see this long formation here. The way it's ruled for WTC, we did actually get this confirmed at the start of the game, which was nice, because it's how we were going to play it. It's always nice to be told you're doing it right. Skirmishers have to stay in their formation for the online event. So basically, I just pick up this long line and I can just shove them up the board and get a good amount of distance. So basically, you can't get out of range of my 13 shooting, which is important because I need to be shooting something every turn to get value out of them, especially when I'm shooting Furies, which have an additional -1, which means that maths-wise, I'm killing 4 or 5 a turn, which isn't enough when they've only got 6 turns to do damage.
Right, totally. And that's the same math. It's beautiful. That's why I like these conversations, because it shows the mental process. It's like both sides. I was doing the same. I was like, he's going to score, but if I play avoidance, he will get my cannons with the dragon, and we'll see what happened. And then he's going to have 6 opportunities to shoot me with the sisters. And then I was like, how many turns of shooting will he need to actually score 1 unit? And then I was like, probably 2, more or less. And again, the math is the same. You will always take like a negative approach, and I'm like, okay, what happens if he rolls above average? For me, you probably did the opposite and be like, okay, if everything goes to shit, like what do I do, right? So that was great. So I think we kind of prepared and prepped for the deployment, kind of in a thinking about the same. So then we rolled off for the first turn, and I won. So I could actually go first. So basically, I'm just summarizing what I did. And by the way, I love the battle report for Warhammer. Very simple, but like it's so nice. It's so easy to talk to it. So basically, as you can see, I just moved a little bit the drones in my movement phase, just to be, again, as I said, behind the Furies. Just gaining a little bit of ground and positioning myself there, still protected. I was measuring clearly how far can those sisters go and all of that. And then when it came to shooting, I was really like, okay, so what should I really shoot at? And again, like Ed deployed pretty well, so there were no big mess in the deployment. So I was like, okay, either I shoot on the sisters themselves and I kill maybe 2, or I tried to make him fail a lookup, sir, which was what I kind of prepped in my head. It was like, listen, if I misfire, I misfire. If I don't misfire, the die is on him. So, fine. You'll probably won't miss it, but if he does, let's see what happens. I got very lucky, and T1, you missed your lookup, sir, with the BSB, right?
Yeah, so my turn 1, I had some really bad luck, but the way that I was unlucky, I was lucky in. So I failed the lookout, sir, but you only did a single wound with the cannon. So instead of killing the BSB, it didn't. We'll get to it in a second because there are a couple of things on my turn, but my wizard blows up, but only takes 1 wound. It doesn't kill too many sisters. So I got unlucky, but the ways I got unlucky were fairly lucky, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too bad.
Exactly. And that was pretty much it for my turn, because of course I did Column of Crystal because I didn't really want any sisters to shoot. Because again, if you make those 6s, it's AP 3, right? So no armor because I'm on a 4-up, and then no saves, and then I had 4 wounds. So I was like, okay, let's hope I don't miss the Column of Crystal, which I didn't. And that brings me to your T1. So here you go.
Yeah, T1, as you can see, I go forwards very aggressively because I've seen from your deployment. And just to speak on, the lucky, unlucky, I got the side I wanted. I went second, which is what I wanted. And then coming into my turn, in fact, from deployment,
I tried to make you choose to see, can I choose who goes first? And you were like,
yes.
Let me check.
I had to double check that one. So the dragon, I think, actually, in retrospect, was misdeployed. I should have put it as to block you shooting at my characters realistically. Because if you shoot my dragon for 6 turns with those skull cannons, I'm very happy. I don't know if you've done the maths on them, but a dragon with a 2-up save against AP2 with, a 5-up armor save, a 5-up ward, a 5-up regen, and you're only doing D3 damage, you never kill that dragon. So I should have just deployed it over to the right. I should have been like, okay, let's use this to protect my characters. It can catch the cannonball with its teeth. It loses 2 teeth, whatever. My models are still alive. And I think that's something that I didn't necessarily do super well through the course of the game, which might end up, of course, costing me later on. But so I just full send forwards and make sure that the dragon is deployed to a point where you can't get past me, because that was the big thing I was worried about with all of your flying skirmishers. I don't want the plague flies to be able to walk past me and then just, they're in range to charge my sisters if I fail a TMP or something like that. That would be game losing for me. So I've got to play quite respectful of your charge arcs. I light up your unit of Furies down on the bottom left from, on the screen, and I kill, I think, 4 of them, as we both expect. Maybe it was 5, who knows? But it's not enough to kill, a unit of 12. It's not enough to seriously threaten a unit to 12. And they don't have a better target to go into. So a little bit of an underwhelming turn 1, but it's not too bad. It's about what I expected for turn 1, and I'm expecting to speed things up as the game goes on.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I also told my team members that they were watching the game clearly. So before the game, I was like, guys, I think the first 2 to 3 turns will be like, hopefully I don't make any big mistakes. And then it will all come down to the last 2 to 3. And yes, you killed 5 Furies. And you took a wound, as we can see in the bottom. You took a wound on the mage. Because you did a double 1 and then a 4, I think. So you got a wound. And then I think it was my T2. So I be mindful of the losses. I said, okay, let's try to give him a little bit of a harder time to shoot at those wounded Furies. So I put them behind a newly formed line of the second unit. So that I was like, okay, probably the sisters, as long as they don't teleport in the woods or by the woods, they won't be able to see me. So he's going to have to shoot to another unit, and then I gain a turn. And then I did that. I pushed a little bit forward with the Furies to kind of still protect the line of sight of the cannons, so that I can actually shoot through them, because that was my plan. Like knowing that all comes down to making you do those lookout serves. So I did that, and I moved the Furies. I casted again the Column of Crystal, because I didn't really want to leave your sisters able to shoot on the cannon. And I think I didn't do anything in particular except killing 3 maybe or 4 sisters with the shooting that turn. And you were too far away for anything else that I could cast. And I was like, okay, let's just see, what he's gonna do. So as we all can see, like I was more like, okay, let's see how much he's gonna push me, and then I'll get worried when the time comes, right? So with that, I pass it on to you. Yes, here we go. T2.
Yeah, so this turn is I think there are a couple of small things that I changed, but there is only one thing that I feel like I made was a big mistake. So you can see here that I am screening my wizard at the end of the turn. My dragon's in front, so you can't very easily cannon it. I've realized that is something I have to avoid, so I've done that. I've TMP'd up the unit just a little bit, put them in position to shoot some more Furies. Again, I shoot the second squad of Furies because you've hit the first one well, the one that's taking casualties, which is very clearly going to be the game plan here. You just keep cycling in the units that have got more health, so it's harder for me to deal with them. But that's okay. I'm still in the early chipping away phases. So I move forwards, I shoot, I position the dragon, and I measure it out, but I don't get it correct. So I've measured it so that I think you can't get the plague flies out of the charge arc if you move down towards the bottom of the map. So from your perspective, the right-hand side of the board, but I haven't measured it correctly. I'm not sure how I messed it up. I think I maybe didn't take into account Demonic Vigor, the one that gives you +1 inch move. Maybe I did it to sort of 19 inches instead of 20 or something. But I think that's the one mistake that I would go back and redo in this game. That's the thing that's I'm not happy about. As for the top side of the map, I want to set up to try and squeeze some damage out of you. Basically, I'm thinking I've got to keep you pinned in as much as possible and let the bows do the work, because as it stands, you're able to just keep kiting away, but you're now already in the corner. So if I can, from turn 3 onwards, get shots into the things I want to shoot, I'm feeling good about the matchup. So trying to pin you in place with the Silver Helms and the Illyrian Reavers, I'm probably never going to charge with them, but I want it to be, if you come forwards, I can charge with them, at which point it's a difficult situation for you. Do you get off my Earthen Ramparts this turn, which is nice. That was the spell that blew up and cost me a wound last time.
Exactly.
Feels rude. Feels rude when you cast a spell that's meant to be good defensively, and then it does damage to you. That's,
that's wrong with the dice, yeah? Right? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's one thing, you also casted the Vortex, which I would say I underestimated it. I mean, when you picked it, I was like, oh yeah. And that's the 4th spell. Because what I have in mind is Wind Blast, because I don't want you to push me out of the board. And then it's CMP, which is a problem. And then... but I didn't think about that. But you said something true. It's like, it's actually the 2nd strongest Vortex after Pillar of Fire in the game.
Yeah. Let's not talk about how far the gap is from Pillar of Fire down to Summon Elemental Spirits.
Yes. No, but I love that. And now I'm prepping for another tournament, and I'm actually thinking, I'm like, should I put the Lord Familiar and pick Elementalism? And in some games, I can actually pick that one. So the problem is, true, it moves random direction. True, that's not ideal. But as you said, like, it only targets enemies units.
Yeah.
And it's strength 4, right? 81.
If it hits, it's pretty decent. And I think this is not the best matchup for it. I don't have a better spell to take, so I'm going to take it anyway. But where it really shines is where you can be aggressive, and turn 1, you full send forwards, and you go, well, I'm dropping the pillar, basically touching you if possible. You want it to be as close to the enemy as possible. That's where it's as strong as it can be, because then they okay, I'll move through it. Oh, I've got to take some dangerous terrain tests. That's almost as good, reducing their movement, making it harder for people to charge through you. I think it's more valuable there than just actually doing damage. But if it does damage as well, I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that was the game. So you did everything right, and that's when I started to get worried, because I saw the dragon, and I was like, I think the dragon is starting to look at my stuff with some greed and interest. So that brings me to my T3, so halfway through for me. So at that point, as Ed mentioned, I successfully casted the enchantment. So I got my flies to fly 20, and I was able to just move out of the line of sight. And to Ed's point, I checked it. But you did beautiful during your turn, because you even spoke to it. You were like, okay, so I'm going to move here because so that you cannot pass me through. So you did really your job, like you did your due diligence. But there was that one spell that is actually. So my captain is not super happy with me taking Demonology. He was pushing me to take Dark Magic. And he got pissed when I chose Demonology, and he was like, dude, you're never going to use that. Because that move, I was like, okay, I hear you. But that was the one situation where it really did help me.
I think I like Demonology more. I think it's a good choice here.
Yeah, I love it. And then I moved the other Furies, same game plan, behind the woods. The ones that were already wounded. Then I moved my other Furies backwards change information so that I could be a little, tighter and shorter. Basically, again, same story. Behind the cannons, the 6 wounded, with the plan of using the column of crystal to protect my cannons. I took 1 wound in your preceding turn because you shot me on the guys. Or I did I did.
I think you misfired. That's right.
Yeah, I did misfire. And then same game plan. I shot again on the sisters, got another 2 kills. Because I think the other cannon missed or was just short of distance. And that was pretty much it. And then I made the vortex with the column of crystal. So pretty boring turns for me, actually. It was more like making sure that I'm not giving you any charge or any easy way to push me to the corner, because I was starting, to your point, to get worried because I feel cornered, which was the risk to begin with this approach. So what I told my captain is, I hope at some point I'll have a game where it doesn't really matter that much, so that I can play test a more aggressive style with the list and see how differently I can approach this. Because at the moment I'm just really going very conservative, which is boring at times.
Being thrown under the bus every time.
Exactly.
Which it's a good list to play defensive and try and squeeze points out of a losing matchup. So you play that style very well.
Yeah. So, and that is your T3.
Yes.
So pushing.
T3. So you've put, now that the plague drones are out of my charge arc, I have to make a decision. And the decision I make is, I can't just dance around them. I've got to try and punish them. So I use my once per game Horn of Isha from the Handmaiden, which gives the entire unit of sisters +1 to hit and wound. That goes off, and I'm like, right, cool. I'm going to TMP into position. I'm going to set up, and I'm going to try and shoot them to death. The thinking is, there's no way that I can kill them in 1 round of shooting. However, I want to make it so that you have the choice to charge me. And even though you probably lose them, the fact that you might make contact with me is not, it'd be worth you getting in with a 1 wound model, theoretically, because the way skirmishes work with coherency, I then probably lose, 6 models or something like that, which, given that you're trying to stop me from shooting you, might end up being a worthwhile trade. Or, worst comes to worst, you run away, but I'll then just teleport to catch you. That's the thinking. So I put all my shots into the plague drones. I do 8 wounds, which is pretty fine. It's about what I expected. I wasn't ever thinking I was going to kill them in 1 round of combat. I think it was 8 wounds with the sisters and maybe another few wounds with something else, because it looks like you've only got a couple of wounds left.
I think you did. You used the horn, right? So you blew the horn, which that was the one roll that I was like, okay, that is the turning point. So if that misses, you were on an 8, right? So the Handmaiden has it. So I was like, okay, let's see. If he makes it, it's gonna be, painful. And then, but if he misses, well, then let's see how he rolls to wound. But then I may have a chance to push those sisters. But I was more like, so you made it. So I think, what did you do? Because I had 4 wounds left. 4 wounds left on the unit. So you.
I think it might have been the Bow of the Seafarer.
The bow. Yeah, the bow. Yeah. Because you had, and that's one thing that was scaring me as well. You didn't roll very well in the first 2 rounds. Turns, like it always missed for one reason or another. And I know when it hits is a problem, right? So it hits pretty hard, and you did 3 wounds, magical attacks, nothing I can do.
Yeah. In the first 2 rounds, I did miss with it, but I was also shooting at Fury, so I was like, whatever. It's basically just another Bow of Avalon that wounds slightly better, so I wasn't too upset about that. And getting a good amount of damage onto the plague drones was really nice. Everything else just sort of moves up again to support. I think that I've got the right side from your perspective of the board, the bottom there, tied up. I'm not worried about them at all. You're not able to get a charge into me from the Furies in the center of the board. So the dragon at this point moves towards the skull cannons, because those are relatively immobile and they're going to be some of the easiest points for me to pick up. And you can see I haven't moved the full 20 inches forwards. That's because I'm staying outside of 15 inches from my Asmet Mirage. That's the main thing that I've got to avoid there. And I've also angled myself, so I think if anyone comes up, basically they couldn't get out of my charge up by moving upwards, you either you're out of range to minus mirage me, so you can column of crystal me, and that will stop me from getting in. But other than that, you haven't really got much scope to get them away. And yeah, not a lot to say. A good round of shooting. I recast the summon elemental spirits closer to the unit that I'm trying to kill. I do have to turn the unit of sisters towards the cannons, which is a risk that I knew I was making, but did have to take. And I was a little bit worried about how that was gonna go. So should we go to your turn? You can tell us how that one went.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the big moment, right, of the game. So, and at that point, I was feeling the pressure there, and I was like, okay, so this one's gonna be tough because I could see the pressure from the cavalry, the dragon there, and my drones heavily wounded. I was like, okay, so my game plan kind of failed. So I was like, okay, so what am I gonna do now? I was like trying to stay focused, which is another thing that I try. I repeat myself. I'm like, don't tilt, because it's like even when the game gets tough, stay with a mathematical mindset.
Yeah.
So I was like, he's gonna take those cannons. I was like, he's gonna get them. So I'll probably do everything I can and finally do one unit of reverse, but I don't have to lose everything else if I can, right? So I was just trying to make things hard for you. So I moved again those furies closer to the characters. I moved in my phase the other furies outside of the line of sight of the dragon, with the idea, let's see where he's gonna shoot, because then I actually can put decent pressure on the sisters. And to your point earlier, I'm like, with the coherency, I will move one model to your model, and then let's see. And furies on sisters can be a problem because my units are corn, so it's like 2 attacks, strength 5, AP 1 on a charge, so that, and your T3 no armors. So it really comes down to like wounding you on 2s. If I make those 2 hit rolls in, then it can become a problem. And then I hid the plague drones behind the other furies. Now shooting, I was like, well, listen, let's try and let's do it. So with one of my cannons, I shot on your mage, and that was the other moment. So you again missed the lookout, sir, and you were wounded from your miscast.
Yeah.
And that,
everything that could have gone wrong did.
Yeah. And I did 4 when I rolled for like D3 wounds. I did 4, and that was 2 wounds, and then the mage was dead. So that changed the game.
Yeah, I think you only had one cannon that could see the caster, because you decided to keep the column and crystal in place, which was, a lot of thought went into that, because if you dispel it so you can shoot, then potentially do you have to cast it again? It's really risky. So you have one shot sort of just through that little gap down the line, and you could see my wizard. I was like, okay, sure, whatever. Roll a 1 on the lookout, sir. It's not ideal. All right. I've got a 5 at ward save from Earthen Ramparts. All right, I fail.
Oh,
you rolled the wound.
Right.
Yeah, I had the ward save. You get the wound off. That one's pretty likely, because, you wound me on a 2. I was like, all right, cool. And then you roll the damage. You rolled... And again, because I'm already wounded, you're likely to kill the character. But it was gut-wrenching, because that changed the game from, I think, probably being something like a 14-6 or a 15-5 to... I'm actually behind on points. It was a 9 to 11 loss at the time you killed my wizard. So I was like, well, now I'm on the back foot in a matchup that I feel like I should be pulling points from you.
Right, correct. And I realized that I tried to keep my temper, because I was like, it's like in tennis when you you don't want to celebrate when somebody makes an error, right? Or like makes an unforced mistake.
Good sportsmanship.
Not a mistake. You just rolled a 1 and you needed a 2 up. So it was like,
that was the mistake. I should have rolled better.
Exactly. So it was like, I didn't say anything. I pretended that never happened. And I was like, God, I got so lucky. I was like, I'm almost embarrassing.
Yeah.
But yes, I realized at that point, I was like, okay, maybe I can pull this off and try to preserve better. And yes, I had a lot of thoughts on the column of crystal, because I was like, if I'm going to dispel it, then I have to recast it. And I was not really seeing that mage dying. So I was like, I'm not gonna, he's going to probably dispel it at some point, maybe teleports the mage closer within 24. So I was like, I'm taking too many risks, and the orders are clear, like, don't risk in this game. So I was like, okay, let's keep it there so that you couldn't charge me with the dragon. And also we did a lot of projections on your cavalry, because I just wanted to make sure that you couldn't either charge with them. And and that was pretty much my turn. I mean, pretty good, pretty profitable, gotta be honest. And that brings me to your T4.
Yeah, T4. So I actually don't really remember this turn, because I was a little bit, when something goes horrendously wrong, and then you have that sort of like, right, I've just got to think, how do I bring this game back? So I don't think I was really focusing on this turn. I was focusing on what am I going to do on turn 5 and 6. So you can see that this unit of cavalry behind my big unit of sisters is currently doing nothing. I had to reform them because they were so close to the sisters, which wouldn't be a problem if I TMP'd them, but I couldn't do that. So I think in this case, do you mind flicking back just for a second?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I did end up moving them. It looks like a wheel. It wasn't a wheel, but it was just I moved the ones at the bottom of the screen further than I moved the ones at the top. So I wanted to start facing round to where I need to be, and also trying to get out of the cannon hell line that was causing me so much issues.
So much pain.
Yeah. So other than that, I just moved everything up. Basically, tried to. Given that I knew that I was in a losing position here, I wanted to set it up so that the dragon could potentially catch someone, but I also wanted to force you away from going aggressive into me. So if you fly the plague drones towards me, I get to shoot you. This is fantastic. Realistically, you hide them, but then, you don't get a multi-charge of 3 units into the unit of sisters, which is now a little bit more defenseless. I think that was the thinking there. Move the Silver Hounds up again, just to make sure that I'm trying to get around the column of crystal and the Illyrian Reavers, who are in skirmish there, but they were just next to each other to take up less space. Moved centrally, which was in charge range of you, because I was thinking if I can bait out, potentially the front unit of Furies, that opens up the ability for me to shoot the plague drones, depending on where they go. At this point, the game is out of my hands, and I've got to try and put you in position to make, as you were saying, an unforced error where I can capitalize and then squeeze some points out of you.
Yeah, and wonderfully said. So again, I saw that, and I was like, okay, he's trying to invite me. But then I was also like, okay, let's see. And you did 3 wounds on the Furies. And that's because I was expecting the usual 5 or 6, right? So then when I saw only 3 wounds, that was another big moment where I took probably 5-10 minutes to think about it. And I was, considering asking for a timeout, but nobody was available. So I was like, is anybody available? So I was chatting with my people, and they were like, nope. And I was like, oh, thank you for the support, guys. That's what I need you. And they were like, I know, I'm working. Sorry, with the kids. I'm in a class. Okay. I was like, okay, good. Because here's the deal. So what was on my mind? So I was like, okay, so now I have that cavalry in the center, so which is in charge range of the Furies. And my thinking was, I charge them. So if he stays, likely is going to be slaughtered. So either he will flee, because I also cause fear, and I'll be probably outnumbering him, or I just kill him on the spot and I can overrun. And then I had the sisters in the back, and I think that was an 8 or a 9 inches overrun with 3 dice, because I have Swiss Stride. And I was like, okay, that's good. But Ed is never going to stay. And I knew, I was like, if I charge, he's going to flee right away. But then after a few minutes, I remembered that I was like, oh, but if I redirect, you cannot stand and shoot on a redirection. And by the way it was positioned, I was like, okay, I'm going to kill a lot of sisters just by the coherency. So I was like, I'm going to charge. He's going to flee. I'm going to test to redirect on a 9 because I had my prince within 12. And then let's see, but that was a long charge because I think it was an 18. So really with movement 8, I really needed a 10 on 2 dice. I think it was a 10 or a 9. Anyway, it was a long charge.
Sure.
And then I was like, okay, so what's happening? Because he's going to flee. I'm going to redirect. If I do redirect and I don't catch him, I'm going to fail the charge and I'm going to be in the arc of the dragon. If the dragon charges me, he destroys me, and he reforms 360 and gets another charge. So these were all the thoughts that I had in mind. And I was like, should I do that? And then I was like, listen, I have this opportunity. I can feel my captain is telling me, Andrea, if you don't take that risk now, when do you? And so I was like, okay, fuck it. And so I went on, declared the charge. Obviously, you fled. And let's see what happens with the... And I don't think with the shooting I did really anything relevant other than keeping the column crystal. So so what happens is you flee, and I sadly miss my. I do my leadership check, but I miss the charge. So I fail the charge, and as expected, I land right where basically you are with the dragon. So I did that. I, of course, moved the flies away and the other unit of furies away as well. Still seeing you with those sisters, you never know. Maybe he doesn't see those furies there. Maybe I can get them somehow. And then I think I killed your reavers with a cannonball.
Yes. Yeah, I think both cannons shot them and that got them.
Exactly. So there was one left. And then I did my demonology magic missile. I think I did the summoning on the other units of cavalry. Yeah. Did just one wound, pretty normal. You're like T3 and 3 up armor save. And I flew the other furies behind impassable. And this is where I made my mistake, because I gave you the points of the cannons right there. Because
sure.
After thinking about, well, he's going to charge me and then he's going to have another turn, I miscalculated and I thought, okay, he's just going to get the furies. And then I was like, oh, shoot, he's going to reform and now he's going to see my cannons. And that's also the feedback from my team. Because afterwards they were like, you should have stayed 3.5 inches back with those cannons and then move out of the line of sight. And I was like, yeah, but that was too late because I forgot. So there was a big mistake that cost me the win.
Sure.
I would say. So I'll pass it on to you.
Yeah. So in fact, if you go back just to your turn, I can tell you my thinking. Actually, I had forgotten about this. But yes, so my sisters were deliberately in. So they were deliberately in the charge range of the Furies, which was partially because I knew I needed to try and get forwards. Because if I just stand still, it's an easy time for you to run away. But also, I have strikes first on the unit and the characters in there. So it was one of those. I was like, if I lose half the unit, I don't give up any points, but I do get the points for the Furies when 2 characters and a load of strength 3 strikes first attacks come in. So I was like, okay, so if I can bait you in here for the charge, assuming that you did redirect, because you're never going to just take the stand and shoot realistically. I pick up the unit before you get to swing into me realistically. So that was like, here's a way for me to get a small amount of points. I also tried to do that on the next turn, but you didn't fall for it, which is a real shame because that would have been a lot of points that I could have picked up there.
Wow. So you're giving me a post-mortem here, which is awesome because you know what? One thing about the old world is that it's so packed and jammed with rules that at some point you will miss and forget about something. I thought you just had Elven reflexes. With
It has every special rule in the game.
Exactly. Because I said, well, he's going to be on initiative 7, and I'm on initiative 7 too, so we're going to go at the same time, and I have a chance.
Right, okay.
And then I was like, and do you do magical attacks in close? No, you don't.
No, it's just the bonus. So
and I was like, I just need one few. No. That was, wow.
Yeah.
You're giving me, you're giving me a blast here, man.
And then the dragon was obviously set up to try and catch, because the thinking for the dragon as well, not so much when I set it up, because I'll be honest, I didn't see turn 6 in the future, but once it was in this position to sort of cover my flank so that you couldn't just out and out aggress on the sisters, it put me in a position where my goal was to charge the Furies and hope that I don't kill you in combat. That was the goal. I don't know if you remember, I used my hand weapon and shield. I was like, maybe you'll charge me with one of the greater demons. I've got to get that saved just in case you survive. I was really trying to low roll. Unfortunately, with demonic instability, killed them to a model.
Yes. I did 11. Yeah, I did 11 on the charge, on the test.
If I kill you on your turn, you don't get to respond to where I am. I can then overrun into the woods and then potentially pick up the flies. Or if you've moved them so that I wouldn't realistically be able to get there with my movement, I can just pivot around and charge, into something else. That was the goal. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to, but that was what I was trying to achieve on my turn 5. If you want to flick it back forwards now.
Now I see. Good, great. So see, that's why I love doing this post-mortem debriefs. Because that's so interesting. I mean, yes, I remember you saying that, and I was like, wow, he's being overly cautious here. I don't think I probably even said that. I was like, dude, I don't think I can kill that guy. And but there was clearly another games at play. That's why I love this game.
It's when you're in that sort of playing from behind, you're like, okay, what's the 5% play where I managed to come back? Okay, cool. If I roll really badly, then I'm locked in combat on your turn. I've also moved 2 inches forward, so when I kill them on your next turn, I get that further overrun. Then maybe I can get the plague drone, something along those lines. Didn't end up working, but it's worth going for. Yeah. I did reform the unit assisters so that they were in open order, which meant that if you charge me, suddenly I don't lose loads of models, but I was facing away from you. And I thought, I don't know if this will work in my favor to make you more likely to charge me, because you won't get hit by the stand and shoot. I was hoping you'd go for it with the Furies to, stroke some more points at the end. And then I shot everything into the already wounded skull cannon and rolled well below average. I only did 2 wounds to it, which was rough, because I was like, okay, I just need to kill the skull cannon here. And that puts me back at a 10-10. I think I needed to kill basically 3 units from this point to get, a positive score. But it was trying to find those little aspects. And also I'd set up the silver helms here. So if you charge me, theoretically, I was hoping it would look like I'd be out of the charge out for them, so you could just chase the sisters up and go from there. But you didn't really fall for any of my well laid plans, unfortunately. And then at the top of the board, the cavalry just runs away from your terrifying monsters because they cannot win that fight. So I'm just going to try and save them.
Yes. That's why I moved them out, and I was like, okay, so that he's going to let my cannon live and not push me. But yeah, I mean, I think it was a quiet game, but it was a game rich of situations where we kind of okay, so let me see if he's going to come for me, and then I'm going to move out. If he doesn't come for me, I'm going to push him. Or you were like, okay, let's see if he charges me, because I have a plan if he does. I love that.
In our 3-hour game, we spent about 20 minutes rolling dice. That's
yeah, exactly. There was a lot of the rest. So that's why I'm saying so far has been one of my most fun games, even though from the report, I mean, you don't see that much of a slaughter. So people, maybe, the people that are watching would be like, well, really, we were hoping
didn't kill anything. How could that be fun?
I mean, yes, the dragon didn't die, and right. So, but yes, totally. So, so that was the game on your T5. Which brings me to my last turn, where I was really okay, set my attention to 100% because this is the moment where I don't have to fuck up. So I basically took a lot of time to think about what to do. I kept the Furies, close so that you can see my drones on the far side. I was like, you can reform and shoot at my Furies, but at that point it will be skirmisher moved, and again, same story there. You obviously deleted my Furies, and that's where I realized that I made a mistake with the cannons, because my game plan was I'm gonna save my ass with the Column of Crystal. And I actually made a mistake in the magic phase sequence because I took an unnecessary risk, and I rolled the glittering robe on the chicken because I was like, maybe he's gonna go for him with the sisters. And then I was like, Andrea, what are you even thinking about? Because I already have -1 to be hit, long range, move, and I was like, why did I even think about it? So he rolled a double 1, which could have costed me the whole magic phase. I got, say, lucky. I did the small template, and I ended up not wounding me, so that was the best outcome. However, I did my shooting, and I killed the remaining horseman that was fleeing. That was running away. So I got those points. And then I was like, okay, and then let's close the game here and do the Column of Crystal so that he can't charge me. And I'll try to put that so that also he can't see me with the sisters. So that was really my end game. I moved away the other Furies and such, but I rolled another double 1. So ended up not wounding myself, but unfortunate. And then I was hoping for like an 11 so that I could cast it, but it didn't work out. And so I couldn't cast it, and I lost my positioning here. So, and that was really my turn. And this is of course, your play. Very well played.
So I think both of us for the last hour or so had constantly been doing the maths on which units we needed to kill, which units we needed to save. And I knew that basically killing one of the 2 skull cannons was enough to get me the points, which was good because I had a whole unit that could shoot, and I had the dragon that could charge as well. And it's fortunate that I only needed 1, because basically the only thing that happened was I declared the charge with the dragon, and then I shot with the other unit. And I think you might have even said, like, it's dead or something like that. It was one of those where it's like, no, we definitely need to roll this out just in case it matters. Not that it would have changed the 10-10 because the gap in the scoring.
It would have changed.
Somehow a dragon did 3 wounds to a skull cannon.
Yes, you rolled so bad, and this time you picked a great weapon. So
I got my bad rolls on the turn I didn't want to have them. I don't really know how I managed to do it.
I was like, and I, in fairness, I didn't even pay attention to the dice rolls.
Sure.
And I was just like, okay, let me know how many I have to save. And you were like, I did 5. And I was like, you did 5? Okay. So between, sorry, that's weird. So between armor save on 6 up and 5 ups, I magically did it. And then when I tested, I did a 3. And so I didn't take any wounds. So, but you killed my other cannon rightfully.
The one wound cannon did die to the sister shooting, which is good. I think I might have not been able to cope emotionally if I failed to kill both of the skull cannons there. That might have been too much for me. I'd have had issues.
2 lookout sirs, 1 miscast that cost your mage, and then not killing the cannon with the dragon and with the shooting would have been too much, right? Yeah, I get it. So that was game. Again, as I said, I was tired of thinking. Like, I was like, I'm happy I played the game. I love Warhammer, but I'm also happy that it's over because I needed time to decompress after. That was obviously the result. So we ended up drawing as we discussed.
A high scoring game.
And that was the final result. So again, lots of fun, and also certainly also helped me knowing a little better the dynamics of the High Elves army, especially when it comes to a list that is thought for competitive play, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think so. And I think it's an interesting list that you're playing, actually. It's an interesting take on maybe not a list that I would expect to do super well in a singles event, but actually plays really well in teams because you can deny points super well. And I think the WTC maps do help with that because there's more terrain on there than you might expect to see in some of the other events. But, you build a list and you play to the mission and the terrain pack that you're on. So I think it's a good list, and I enjoyed playing against it. I don't want to have to play against this sort of list if my job is to get points out of it again, because it's hard.
It's really point avoidance, and you have that unit of sister, which is scary, yes, but it's one unit. So that's when I was like, listen, I'm not gonna win this game, but if everything goes well, I shouldn't be losing 20. That was what it looked like. So for everyone who's listening, that's an interesting take, and for all our followers and subscribers, and especially the members of our Patreon, we discuss a lot around what is the right list building process, and that's what Ed and I were just discussing about. Is that it all comes down to maps. For example, how many pieces of terrains will we have? What's the rule set that we're playing? Is this rule this way from the ComFAQ or the FAQ from GW? How are we really playing the game? Which is a point on with the old world. And I think, Ed, in some of your fantastic videos, you're talking a lot about these, and that was the direction of the game. What's happening next? So I highly recommend if you are like subscribers in Italian and you do know English, please go ahead, subscribe to Close Order, and check out all the videos that Ed does. I do personally. I'm a viewer, so that is awesome. And I leave you with a question, just to add some spice to this. We know that on Saturday, the Arcane Journal of the Wood Elves is going on pre-order. They've been very buttoned up this time around. It leaked.
They have.
Like the Beastman Journal leaked a lot, but like for Wood Elves, we don't know. Do you think, now that's an open question, just for the sake of talking, do you think that this much rumored rule adjustment, or like general's handbook, whichever the way you want to call it, will come at some point to fix all the things or some of the things that are plaguing a little bit of the old world, like, I don't know, the skirmisher things and such? Do you know that? Because like our Italian friends are like asking me about that every single day. And sometimes I'm like, dudes, I
don't know. What would I say? I'd say,
what can you share if you can?
Well, I've been playing Games Workshop games since I was 8, and I've come to realize that the decision making from that company doesn't always follow the logical train of thought that us normal human beings would have. So I would say I'm 95% sure that we'll be getting it sooner rather than later. But there's that 5% that maybe they go, you know what, actually, this would be great to release in the summer of 2029. That's when people really want this sort of content. So we'll see. But I think we won't have to wait too long for some sort of rebalancing to change the game up, shake things up a little bit.
Yeah. And and I think so too, because I think the game, and this is a parting thought, I would say now that I've been playing this for about a year and something, unfortunately, because of family, job, and everything, I don't play as much as I want, but I have a decent amount of games in at this point. The depth of the rule set is really amazing. I think you can do there are so many beautiful things that can happen throughout the game that makes me say, probably it's not, when I look back at the history of Warhammer Fantasy Battle, it's probably not the best rule set in itself for me, it's like 7th edition was probably the highest peak in terms of rule set alone, like just base rule book, like not the other lists were like more
right, okay,
but like in terms of core rules. But I find Old World so fascinating. But at some point, as we said, it's like it's just too much, and sometimes it's so confusing that we end up studying for competitive plays like 20 pages of confacts and all of that. So that is my parting thought. But I cannot say enough how much I love the game. So
I think this is the best an edition's ever been for the first year of its release. I think there have been editions that were better, but they took a while to get better. So I think I'm really happy with where we are. And I'm also looking at Old World pretty holistically. I think everything I want from this game will happen. It might take 10 or 12 years, but I'm going to be playing this game in 10 or 12 years. So it's all up and up, I think, for Old World, and really positive direction. And Cathay is going to be a huge boost to the interest. We're going to have a lot of people coming into the game that weren't playing it before.
That's my hope, and I mentally, financially, everything, because this time there's no excuse. I told my wife, I was like, listen, that side of the closet, don't even think about putting stuff in there, because that's for Cathay and Wood Elves, because I'm waiting for those Wood Elves like crazy. But yes, no, I agree. I mean, Cathay, I was excited like a baby. When I saw that, I was like, okay, they're betting on it. It's probably doing fairly well, the game at this point, for them releasing a whole new army so quickly. So that's only good news. So that's awesome. So now, wrapping this up, Ed, great pleasure to meet you, man. Amazing game together. Great to have you on the channel. You've been like a fantastic guest to the episode. My friend, my buddy Alberto also says hi. He couldn't join today, but he was excited to know that you were joining. Thanks a lot for your time. And one parting thoughts for everybody who's listening: don't stalk, subscribe. Don't look without subscribing. Like, we need that to happen. We are close to the milestone, and in order to give you more better contents on an ongoing basis, you have to subscribe, even if you don't speak Italian. I promise we will have more contents in English, Italy focused, but something more that I can do. But thank you, everybody. Ed, again, thanks a lot for joining.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Ciao a tutti.